Every year this time of season, it gets to be like Groundhog's Day. Even Dave Hyde brings out the annual Groundhog's Day avatar on his Twitter account to show you that here we go with another Dolphins year. The Dolphins began the season 4-2 and then lost 5 straight in 2017. This season, the Dolphins began the season 4-2 and are coming off Sunday's 32-21 loss to the Detroit Lions in a game where the defense laid down. Are we looking at deja vu all over again, Dave?
Not 5 straight losses. I don't think. I mean, they play the Jets in the middle of this at home. So, yeah, look, I don't think they're that team. And it's weird. A week ago at this time, they just beat the Bears. Everybody was loving it,
I was
right?
feeling good about these Dolphins. I thought they had a lot of hope and potential. They were showing a lot of unity as a team. Albert Wilson was a catalyst. And then, oops.
What happened?
What happened?
What happened?
The Dolphins season
happened.
Well, we'll discuss that and other topics here on X's and Omar, which is sponsored by Gulfstream Park. Dave Hyde, Hall of Fame today. Dave Hyde goes into the Broward County.
I'm sweating my speech a little. I gotta give a 5-minute speech, and that's, you know, for a person who sits at a keyboard, that's a whole different world.
Definitely looking forward to that. I will be going. I am wearing black. It's for the occasion, not for the Dolphin season, of course.
Hopefully, it's not for how the speech will turn out.
But the Dolphins defense got embarrassed by the Lions. There's no other way to explain that but a butt whooping. 248 yards from scrimmage rushing the football. Miami got owned at the line of scrimmage. What happened, Dave?
I got no great explanation other than 2 things. One is you'd seen occasional cracks this year. Not full out across the board cracks, but occasional cracks. So maybe we look back at this game as the outlier. You do that once in a while in seasons. There's great wins, there's bad losses, maybe. But the scary thing to me is the one player I thought they'd miss all along was Ndamukong Suh, up the middle, being the strength and core. I mean, he took a lot of stuff off other people's plates. And are we now seeing over time the wearing down? Mm-hmm. There were a couple games in there where the opposing teams had double the amount of plays as the Dolphins did. And you look at
like cumulatively adding
like
up.
Teams wear down in a game, they can wear down in a season. Now we're only midway point, so you know, you better hope it's not that. That's not the case.
I went into this season concerned that their ability to stop the run with small linebackers and with basically unaccomplished defensive tackles would bite them in the butt this season. And it seems as if that could be the case. But I also went into the season thinking that the defensive line and the wide receiver units would be 2 of the deepest units on the team and would carry the team to wherever they're going to go. Well, right now, there are no more injury-decimated units other than the Dolphins' defensive line and the wide receivers. Right now, the Dolphins are in a situation where they will have to go into a game with some receivers possibly playing, some receivers from the practice squad possibly being active on the 53-man roster, Isaiah Ford, Leonte Carroo, and maybe we'll see some running backs playing wide receiver.
Yeah, and look, when you look at, if we're talking offense, where the Dolphins started of an offense, they have 6 starters out now. You know, tight end, guard, center, receivers, and depending on how you want, you know, quarterback. So I'm not sure how many teams can overcome that. On the other hand, some of the replacements are doing just fine. The quarterback's surprising you. You got the offensive line, the middle of the line isn't
stabilizing.
You know, if you're going to say anybody had a problem last week, it was Jesse Davis over Ricky Francois. You know, the John Francois
chief.
Okay, right. And so, you know, now comes the big problem when you lose a guy who'd become a breakout star in Albert Wilson. You know, he'd become one of those guys. You know, I remember talking to a Dolphin official before the season, why aren't you guys writing about Albert Wilson? And I'm like, well, you look at his stats from Kansas City, you look at the Kansas City coach, look what Kansas City, great offensive mind there. They couldn't find a way to use him, and yet he had a break. He was being used very well here.
Yeah, one of the pleasant surprises of this season, Albert Wilson suffered a hip injury against the Detroit Lions, and it's more than likely he's going to be out for the rest of the season, placed on IR. If, you know, it's possibly that this could challenge his career from what people are saying about this hip injury. But we'll discuss that a little bit later on in the season. But right now, let's get into our first question, which comes from Ron. Ron wants to know, can the defense bounce back and fix the issues after being gashed on a short week?
They better, because they're the hope this week, right? And it's not like Houston is a great offense, okay? They've had their moments, and they're inconsistent too. And so, you know, they have a great receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. They have some talent, but their offensive line is a question, and if ever you're going to say, okay, defensive line, now's the time to make a statement, it's this game.
Well, they're going to get Jonathan Woodard back. He was a former practice squad guy, contributed 8 tackles and one sack in 3 games. He was coming off the concussion protocol. He's cleared. Cam Wake is going to be playing in a 2nd game with his knee injury. Andre Branch is going to be playing in a 3rd game with his knee injury. So it takes him a little bit of while to work off the rust. And maybe the decreased snap on the defensive end standpoint is going to help the Robert Quinns and Cameron Malveaux and Andre Branches of the team. I don't know. I've always felt like they needed another veteran defensive tackle. I'm pleased to see what I've seen from Godchild. Vincent Taylor's played well, but you need some reinforcements there, and I'm just not sure that they have the depth.
All right.
Second question comes from Luke Fader, who wants to know, what is the Dolphins' identity? And that's a question I've asked Adam Gase twice now.
You've been asked, and really when you look at what's happening in games, how they're winning, how they're losing, there's no real consistent rhyme or reason. There's no unit.
Actually, I disagree with you.
Okay.
There is a consistent rhyme or reason. You were the first one that pointed it out to me. Speed.
No, but I'm saying now it's not there.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But
now,
that
okay,
was
yes,
their identity.
Yes.
Speed was their identity.
Right. Now they have one speedster really in Hakim Grant. Whereas they had, and Kenyon Drake, you know, if ever was, you see spurts of it with Kenyon Drake. Last week, big run. Other times, nice reception. This is a week, maybe, I would say, let's feature Kenyon Drake a little more. He has the speed, he has the power, he has big playmaking capability.
Also, turnovers, creating turnovers. Kiko Alonso, Rashad Jones. You know, this defense talked about last Sunday in the Lions game. They kept waiting for the turnover to come. They had gotten a turnover every single game. It had changed momentum. It had rallied the team. And it just never came.
You're right. Turnovers would be the identity going into this game, and Houston, you know, is okay.
Might be able to give it to you.
Okay. Question 3. Tyler wants to know, true or false, Brock Osweiler is out there making throws we've wanted Ryan Tannehill to make his whole career, evading pressure, eyes downfield, and on target.
You know, I want to give Brock Osweiler a lot of credit because he has a 107 quarterback rating in his 2 starts. He's thrown some pretty impressive passes during this stretch, including the touchdown passes that he threw to Danny Amendola and Kenny Stills in the back of the end zone. Brock Osweiler is balling for Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler is giving you the best that Brock Osweiler can. But Brock Osweiler is a backup quarterback that a team paid a lot of money for, and then a year later, the same team the Dolphins are playing on Thursday said, you know what? We see a flawed quarterback. We don't believe in him. We just want to get rid of the money.
Guys grow up. You don't think he's growing up?
I think he's grown up. I think he's matured, and he's certainly handled a lot of adversity. I can honestly tell you, I don't know a quarterback who's been through more, other than Colin Kaepernick, in a short span of time, to just from the highs to the low, championship
to a national joke.
I mean, people mega contract to the NFL's first baseball trade. They got rid of you and gave away a contract.
Is he making throws and plays Ryan Tannehill isn't? That's the question.
I don't think he is. Because I've seen tough throws from Ryan Tannehill in the red zone. How many times have we seen him throw a tough throw to Kenny Stills in the red zone? Or find Kenny Stills in the back of the end zone? I don't think, you know, the pocket presence, he does get rid of the ball. But here's the difference that I see in Brock Osweiler and Ryan Tannehill. On 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 14 against the Lions, they ran a draw play. Instead of throwing the ball, which I'm not 100% committed that they would have done it with Ryan Tannehill, instead of throwing the ball, they said, let's take our losses, let's punt. We're not even going to try on 3rd down. I don't believe that they make that same call with Ryan Tannehill.
I'd say there's one difference, and to me it's a big difference. I think they're ultimately, they look the same as far as throws they're making.
Caretakers.
One difference in that Ryan Tannehill dropped the snap against the Patriots, lost the ball against the Jets for a touchdown, 2 big turnovers against them. You don't see that. 2 games, not a big sample size just yet.
Oh, you're going to get a good sample size
I think
on
you're going on the
Thursday
road,
night.
going on the road. But we haven't seen that, from Brock Osweiler just yet.
I think, considering all the adversity that he's going to face with all of these injuries, facing J.J. Watts and Jadeveon Clowney, we're going to see the real Brock Osweiler. Now, if he can elevate this team and raise their level of performance and help them produce a victory, then I will consider, hey, maybe it is time.
If you just want Brock Osweiler, if he can do what he's done the last 2 weeks, on the road against all the.
Don't beat yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's the Dolphins quarterback motto. Don't beat yourself.
Which is why we're going to be talking about it a lot coming up, I'm afraid.
Yeah. The Dolphins have been battling injuries all season, but this week they're at an all-time low. Albert Wilson, the top playmaker on the offense, suffered a hip injury and more than likely will miss the rest of the season. Kenny Stills is battling a growing injury. He's going to miss this Thursday night game. Hakim Grant's got an Achilles injury. Danny Amendola's got a shoulder injury. And Devante Parker, he's healthy, Dave. He's healthy.
He's not on the injury list. How about that?
Yeah.
After all this, the first time the injury list to come out, he's not on it for all the fireworks this weekend.
Yeah. So for those who missed the as the world turns in Dolphins land, Devante Parker is not active for his 4th game of the season. He's only played 2 because he's been battling the finger injury and then the quadriceps injury.
But he was healthy Sunday. He could have been active.
He could have been active.
Yes.
Possibly should have been active.
I think he definitely should. Not in hindsight, in foresight. You
Yeah.
don't go into a game with 4 receivers if he's your number 1 receiver. Now, what that tells you is what Adam Gase really thinks of Devante Parker.
Or thinks of how he practiced that week.
Yes, right, exactly. He's seeing things, how he adjusts, does he adjust, things he's doing.
Change of directions. That gearing down, fighting for balls.
Things have been a question for him for 4 years now.
Yes. Now, this week, Parker's agent came out and said to multiple media outlets, Devante Parker should have been played. Adam Gase, what do you call him? Incompetent?
Incompetence. He has incompetence. He said that something smells in Miami. He's
yes.
on and on and on. And
an agent calling a head coach incompetent?
Unbelievable. And unbelievable that there was no return fire. Now, it's a short week now, and to me, I would have said, Devante Parker hasn't done anything. See ya.
As Adam Gase said, when we asked if Devante Parker would play, his answer was, I don't have any more receivers.
He's got him on the practice squad.
Yeah. When asked about, will you have enough receivers for the game, Adam Gase said, I got 5 running backs.
I think Devante Parker's on a his career here with the Dolphins, very short term. And the question is, does it go to the end of the year or does it make it there? Because he's not going to get the contract extension.
So you're saying right now, Dave Hyde is on the books is saying Devante Parker has a 5th-year option that the Dolphins triggered in May for $9.4 million next season. You're saying Devante Parker does not. It's only guaranteed for injury. It's only guaranteed for injury, which with Devante Parker,
that's going to happen. It's going to happen. Barring some miracle transformation in his game that I haven't seen in 3.5 years.
To me, Thursday night's game, he's going to play because he has to play. They run mostly 3 receiver sets. They only have 3 receivers, and one of them's healthy, and that's Devante Parker. So he's going to play. Thursday night against the Houston Texans with a quarterback that he's rarely ever practiced with because Brock Osweiler admits, yeah, I haven't worked with that guy.
Well, he hadn't worked with hardly any of the guys until 2 weeks ago, right?
Hey, he's worked with Isaiah Ford, he's worked with Leonte Carew, and he's worked with Mike Gesicki.
That's why, to me, if any of those guys can play at all, who cares about all this crap with Devante Parker? It's not worth it.
We might be seeing that. I think the fifth-year option, $9.4 million, I thought they'd never honor Juwan James, and they did.
They need right tackles. Tackles are hard to come by, and especially in free agency, there aren't many out there. Receivers, it's a different matter. You can make that work with receivers.
So you're thinking that they would rather the money and go shop for another Albert Wilson?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question as of now. Now, Devante Parker's been mercy ruled, 9 games here at the end of the year to try to change people's opinion of him. But anything you've seen in 3.5 years say that won't be the case?
I've seen a couple of good practices.
Okay. All right. Omar, comes from Fernando Navarro. What's the real issue with Miami injuries? Diet issue, not enough strong training, too many injuries right now.
I can't blame this on anybody in the administration because they have a world-renowned nutritionists. They have great cooks and dietitians. They've got, state-of-the-art. They've got a sleep chamber.
One thing we know they are at the top of the league is investing in science.
Steve Ross has invested so much money into the science of the league and body, the GPSs that check. He's actually an owner of the technology. So to sit here and blame some of this on just anything other than the physical nature of football. You're the one who always tells me about these 30-year-olds.
That's to me, if you're looking for blame, when the roster was reconstructed, and we can roll the tape back.
We got the tape.
Look, people get hurt in football.
Yeah.
Older players get hurt more frequently, and they take longer to recover. And so, Albert Wilson, though, that's just football. That's a freak injury. Kenny Stills, that's football.
Devante Parker breaking a finger, that's just football.
That's football. Some of it's bad luck.
Bobby McCain, a knee injury.
When you look at 2016, when you look at 2008, their playoff years, minimal injuries.
No, actually in 2016, they had a number of injuries to the point where guys like Bakari Rambo, Mike Pouncey was out, Rashad Jones was out. I mean,
2008.
2008,
no injuries at all, right? They had none. I remember talking to Tony Sperano and saying, have you ever gone through a year with such few injuries? And he goes, don't you jinx it.
God rest his soul, Tony Sperano.
All right. Pretty Fly Guy wants to know, Omar, do you think Hakim Grant can give us some of the same production Albert Wilson did?
I am not the biggest Hakim Grant fan. I've always had the opinion that he was a gimmick player. Anybody who's 5'6", 165, 5'7", I'll be generous.
How big's Tyreek Hill?
Hey. That's a tremendous playmaker right there.
Yeah.
I'm not in the position to put Hakim Grant in tremendous
not
playmaker
yet.
category.
Not yet. No.
They might call him the bully all they like as a team, and that's their nickname for him because of the tenacity. But you know what? The truth is, can Hakim Grant carry an offense? I would have to say absolutely not.
No, and he shouldn't be asked to. So much of sports is roles.
Yes.
In his role, Hakim Grant is really succeeding this year. Great return man, great speed in special plays for him. And
special plays that you design up for him.
And he's shown an ability to catch on the outside that a year ago he didn't have. So, or at the end of the year he did, at the start of the year. So we'll see where his game developes. But to expect him to be Albert Wilson.
But then did you expect Albert Wilson to be Albert Wilson?
No, I did not. No, I'm surprised by that too.
I will say this. I think that Isaiah Ford will be the guy who's promoted and activated and contributes. He spent a year learning the playbook. He can play slot. He can play on the outside. He's not Leonte Carew, even though they do need that big physical player. I remember Isaiah Ford was one of the more impressive players early in training camp. Now, this was early with Brock Osweiler and David Fales. Hey,
but we didn't see him after that.
That's true. If he got hurt, he has the Devante Parker disease. And fragility is an issue, and we didn't see him. But he's been practicing. He's healthy. Maybe. I mean, these are the games where players the Michael Thomases make a career of themselves. They get called up, put into, Adam Gase even next man up. Next man up. And for a while on the defensive line, Jonathan Woodard, Malveaux, they were playing
in the short term. Eventually, especially experience is going to.
You can't keep going to the next man's next man up.
All right, Omar. Next question from Amol Yannick. Sorry, Amol, if I mispronounced that. With the emergence of OLeary and injuries to the receivers, why not use Gesicki out wide for the rest of the season?
Well, first of all, let's address the Nick OLeary. They have these terms that they use for him, God send. And this is the praise for Nick OLeary is pretty high because the offensive line to the wide receivers to the defensive players, they know how important that position is to an offense, and he helps everybody. So Nick OLeary walks around there like he's got a crown on his head. Because
they haven't had a real tight end since Charles Clay, right? What's that, 5 years?
Yes.
4 years?
And for a guy who had just been off the trash heap, basically out of work because Buffalo didn't want him, God, what do you have there at tight end, Buffalo? Thank you. He's Jack Nicklaus's grandson. So, maybe it's in the genes, but he's been phenomenal. And what that does is it frees up Mike Gesicki to play the Mike Gesicki role, which is to sort of be a bigger wide receiver. The problem is putting him at wide receiver is he's not super fast. So now you're just giving a cornerback a slower big target. That's not going to be hard for them to cover. So I don't think that that's the answer, especially when it's not the red zone and you're not throwing jump passes to him. But I think that you're seeing a lot of the pressure alleviate from Mike Gesicki because the workload has been lowered.
You think the two tight end sets that they run this would be a week you're going to see a lot more of them, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, two tight end sets, three running backs.
Yes. Anything they stay away from overusing the receivers.
Let's be real about Thursday night games, because Thursday night games we're just trying to get through this game. Somebody's got to score points. Both teams. The Dolphins had a walkthrough yesterday. They're barely practiced today before they're flying out early. Adam Gase has not won a Thursday night game in 3 years, so he's trying things a little bit differently. I don't know what kind of offense you could run with players who barely played with the quarterback. So, your two tight ends, your twin back sets, you're probably going to get a lot of run.
You're saying it's a long shot here, Omar. I'm getting that idea. Okay, question 7. Johnnie Fins has our next question. Is there any player out there that would immediately help us make an impact on the field that's not on the roster?
Well, I did have one name, and he was a former Dolphin who happened to be living probably 5 miles from the facility in Rashard Matthews, who asked for his release from the Tennessee Titans and got it, but he struggled to find work because Rashard Matthews is, he burns bridges on the way out. He flame torches them. So a lot of teams were bad-mouthing him. Well, it looks like the Jets have signed him today.
Yeah, that's too bad because he was productive for Tennessee up until this year.
Only problem is, could he have worked with Ryan Tannehill, who he flame torched on the way out? You don't really want, but I think he was out of work. So hey, beggars can't be choosers. But that guy can help. There's also talking to Demaryius Thomas, who's out there. You've had open lines of communication with Denver. Vance Joseph, the head coach, even though I don't know if he's going to be the head coach for much longer, has been, you've got an open line of communication with him. Demaryius Thomas knows Adam Gase's offense, could potentially fix a lot of their issues offensively, gives them that big presence, gives them the plays that he's been missing because of Devante Parker's absence, addresses clearly an issue on the team.
What do you give up for him? I'm not doing the Dallas. I'm giving my number 1 pick.
No. This isn't a situation where I think you got to give a number 1 pick. And if they're asking for a number 1 pick, hey, you keep him and we'll wait till you cut him next year, next offseason, trying to get cap space, and then we'll sign him. I think he's still a productive receiver, still a 1,000-yard receiver. I would offer up the same thing that a 3rd-round pick.
Okay, that sounds legitimate.
You signing up on board?
What's Demaryius Thomas now?
He is. I don't think he's 30, but I know he's got $14 million on the books for next year's contract. I mean, it's a little bit up there, Dave. But
I'm not sure I'm going there, Omar. 30-year-old guy pushing.
all
30.
of a sudden, I put $14 million of fake money on
a guy pushing 30. in addition to the money, the combination is not something I'm giving up a good chip for.
So you're pulling the plug on the season?
No, I'm not pulling the plug on the season.
Okay, all right. But you won't go make the trade?
Does Demaryius Thomas save the season? That would be my question. And I would say no. Yeah. And so why go there?
Why go that route? Maybe because you want to be competitive, Dave.
Okay,
maybe because you want to have a chance. Maybe because you're playing for your job.
And we've seen that before.
We have
Dave
seen that
Wannstedt
before.
And Rick Spielman throwing things, draft picks left and right to get players.
I mean, if you're looking at this season and you're facing possibly a 5-game snowball like last season, and you're Mike Tannenbaum,
I don't think we're not going for the nuclear button just yet, are we, Omar?
No.
You're just raising it.
I mean,
the specter.
You're
thinking like that, like they would right now, right?
You know what? Because he knows the offense, it might work. Now he's got to develop chemistry. You're Ryan Tannehill. Aren't you trying to save your career and get your $22 million on next year's contract by showing just enough hope? Don't you need weapons to show that kind of hope, Dave?
Again, a guy pushing 30 with a big money deal at receiver who's not going to essentially move the needle of the season. Maybe a win, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a win.
I'm not going there. I'm not in on that.
So if he gets you to 9 instead of 8 wins, no. Why?
What?
Where
are you? Where are you? Who loves you?
The Dolphins and Texans have identical 4-3 records, but somehow it feels like the Houston Texans are heading in the right direction. They've won 4 straight games after starting 0-3, pulling off overtime victories against the Colts and the Cowboys, then victories against Buffalo and on the road in Jacksonville. How good are the Houston Texans right now?
Well, let's look at those teams. Okay, they're winning, and anytime you win in the NFL, that matters. Okay, the schedule is whatever. The only team they beat of any note is Jacksonville, and Jacksonville was reeling.
Yeah.
Okay,
they benched their quarterback.
So I'm not as high on them as I would be most teams with a 4-game winning streak. Okay, they've turned their season around, and it seems like they do have a scary lineup. Okay, defensive front. But let's not pretend that they're the New England Patriots or the Kansas City Chiefs the way they're playing right now.
So you're not ready to put them in the category of one of the hottest teams in the NFL, right?
No, I'm not even sure they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Deshaun Watson is their starting quarterback. He's in his 2nd year. He got injured in his first season. Right now, he's completing 63% of his passes, throwing 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. But he's been sacked 26 times, Dave. Offensive
line is horrid, and that's what I'm saying. If you're looking for a rebound for the Dolphins, and what got trampled last week started with the defensive line. This would be a rebound game for them.
Question for Dave Hyde. Would you rather have Deshaun Watson or Ryan Tannehill right now?
Oh, I'd rather have Deshaun Watson. Younger. He had a very productive rookie year. He's still trying to define who he is. I think you know who Ryan Tannehill is. At 30, 7 years in, and he's missed one of the last 26 games with injuries.
But that goes to my concern about Deshaun Watson. Injuries and durability. He missed more than half of his rookie season. Who's to say he's not one Cam Wake hit away from being done for the year?
You asked me who I'd rather have. Who would you rather have, Omar?
I actually, this is going to sound weird, but I would rather have Ryan Tannehill because I do not believe in the durability of Deshaun Watson. And I think banking on somebody like that each season is unless you've got a very comparable quality backup, is just rolling the dice every year.
Do you believe in the durability of Tannehill?
You know, I'm starting to wonder about it. I got to see how he comes back from this shoulder injury because if he's going to struggle and lose some of his velocity, already you got questionable pocket presence, no velocity, lacking velocity. I'm not sure I want you as my starting quarterback.
All right, Justin Dunker wants to know, will Xavier Howard shadow DeAndre Hopkins even when he's in the slot?
I think having Xavier Howard shadow the best receiver on each team has been a blessing to Miami. Now, it's exposed some limitations on the other player, whether it be Torrey McTyer or Bobby McCain, who I thought had an okay game. But Xavier,
First game back.
Right. Xavier is showing you that right now he has the potential to be an elite cornerback. I think you have to have that conversation that, hey, he is an elite cornerback. And I think he definitely has to shadow DeAndre Hopkins. But not only that, but I think it's time that we start to see him move inside and put Minkah out on the boundary if Hopkins does go on the inside into the slot.
Well, if you're talking Thursday night game, but here's somebody who wants to have a big game is Xavier Howard. He's going home.
Yeah.
That's where he's from, Houston, and I'm sure he wants to show everybody at home who he's become. And,
yes.
and this would be a perfect...
This is your biggest star on your football team. Well, here is your Baylor product. Here is your Ninth Ward player. I'm shutting him down. That's me. So, yeah, this is going to be an opportunity for Xavier Howard to showcase himself.
All right, our next question comes from George Stoneman. At what point do we start worrying about Gase falling out with so many players? I know he's quote, a dog, but there is a clear trend here.
I think that every coach on every team has management issues with players that will become troublesome. I mean, I saw a Jordan Phillips situation 4 years ago because you just knew not everybody is meant to be a quality teammate. Jay Ajayi, look at that situation. I know everybody's saying, oh, how could you trade away a Pro Bowl player? Well, the Dolphins didn't believe in Jay Ajayi and didn't believe in his durability. Here he is out for the season with a knee injury. They weren't going to pay him. They would rather move on. The real situation that bothers me and makes me a little bit uncomfortable is Jarvis Landry. And I know that had a lot to do with money, but when you're buddy-buddy with everybody, and Adam Gase is buddy-buddy with everybody, and then you do your buddy wrong, it feels kind of personal, Dave. You understand what I'm saying?
See, I'd say Mike Pouncey would be another one.
Yeah.
Adam Gase loved Mike Pouncey.
Oh, yeah.
And to do business and cut Mike Pouncey, you know.
And then never even took his call.
Never took his call. So
and that's the part that hurt Mike the most.
Here's my larger point. And if there's I know Dolphin fans, there was an earlier question about Gase. I was on the radio about Gase's future. There's a cost to constantly turning over coaches, regimes. Look what's going on in Oakland. John Gruden doesn't like anybody. Anybody you hired, get them all out of here. Everybody out.
Amari Cooper.
When you bring in coaches in football, especially
collateral loss,
systems, personalities, finances. I'm on a 1 year of a 3 or 4 year contract. There's a lot of things go on, and a lot of times there's so much turnover. You really need to really think, really be sure that a coach can't coach, Joe Philbin, Cam Cameron, before you start saying, let's push everybody out.
I am in the category of I don't have a doubt that Adam Gase can coach. I've seen him problem solve. I mean, this problem this Thursday is a pretty damn big problem.
Are we talking coaching or head coaching?
Head coaching. I have a bigger problem with his play calling than I do have with his head coaching ability. Yes, you have to manage 53 personalities, if not more. You're talking about coaching staffs. It's a challenge, and I think that Adam Gase, with there are rare exceptions, like Devante Parker, where he does a pretty good job. Maybe he should have said to Devante Parker, dude, you practice like poop.
Let's remember the last couple years with Devante Parker, he put his arm around Devante Parker, said, I'm going to show you how to be a pro. And you need to treat your body better, you need to do this, you need to do that. This is really the first time there's been a falling out with Devante Parker.
And there still isn't any tough love. Right now, I think it was a player situation. He talked about having plays for Balaj in the red zone, and they did have a wildcat play with Balaj in there. And, it just, hey.
Didn't make a lot of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense. But
if he didn't practice well all week, would it make sense to you?
I'm sure. Look, Gase has so much more information than we do on this. Okay, but if he's your number one your number one receiver, he's healthy. You've invested a lot in.
How many games has he been your number one receiver?
Well, in theory, he's your number one. He does something.
Theory and execution ain't the same thing, Dave.
He does something, brings a size and brings an element nobody else has. So
that is true.
So now that doesn't explain or allow for anybody to go nuclear on the head coach, which the agent did. Completely two stories here. But if you're asking me, do I want a guy who's going to contribute on special teams, admittedly, and play 3 offensive plays, or have access to
Devante Parker?
Devante Parker.
You're going with Devante Parker. Okay, I could definitely.
Of course,
see.
I would have cut him this week after all this stuff. So,
but you need him, Dave.
He doesn't.
Do you really? You're saying, do you really need Devante?
Do you need him?
You'll be answering that question.
He'll answer it. I won't be. He'll be answering it.
That's true. If there was any point that Devante Parker needs to have the stretch of his career, it's right now, because this stretch could save his season.
Look, his agent thinks he should have been on the field and playing and is healthy and can make big plays. Thursday night, go for it.
Yeah. Tyler Young asks, with the way the Lions have owned the line of scrimmage against the Dolphins, do we have a prayer of slowing down J.J. Watts and Jadeveon Clowney and the Texans D-line? Feels like we're going to have a long night on Thursday.
Well, there's a challenge, right? Every game is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And here it is. Now, we went into the Chicago game saying Khalil Mack is going to destroy the Dolphins, right? Both tackles are in trouble, especially Juwan James. Juwan James had the game maybe of his Dolphin career.
That is correct.
Khalil Mack had 2 tackles, was invisible. So, can it be done? Sure, but that's the challenge.
I think that Laramie Tunsil has been admirable, just effective, taking on the best pass rusher on every opponent and shutting them down. He allowed 1 sack. That was last week, and it was a cheapie. So if you can go 7 games and be that consistent, that reliable, yes, he's got to cut down the penalties. I think you're going to be able to do solo blocks with him, with Jadeveon Clowney. Now, my concern is J.J. Watts, who lines up as a 3-4 DN. Sometimes he's against Juwan James. Sometimes he's against Jesse Davis. Those two need to play well. Jesse Davis had his worst game of his career last week against Ricky Jean-Francois, and I'm a big Jesse Davis fan, but he didn't deliver, and he's got to get his mind right. Ted Larson is battling I think it was a calf issue. Hopefully he's healthy, because you don't really have that much depth. But yes, you got to make sure that Brock Osweiler isn't sacked 4 times like he was against the Lions.
Yeah, and you need to look. One of the problems I thought in retrospect with the Detroit game, they never got any running game going. To at least
they had 100 yards.
No, to at least no. Okay, but
the big plays.
Yeah, to maintain some semblance of rhythm in the game. And they kept giving the ball back to Detroit, and Detroit kept running it down their throat.
Man, scoring 8 of 9 possessions. I really haven't seen the team dominated like that since, the Patriots earlier this season. But prediction time, this is an easy one for me. I don't think Brock Osweiler is going to be wearing a cape. I don't think Hakim Grant is going to be Superman. I don't think Devante Parker is going to have his career game. And I don't think that Kenyon Drake is going to be a superstar who carries this offense. And to me, if your offense can't score 17 points, they're not going to win on Sunday. So I'm going to predict a 21. The defense is going to do their thing. They're going to show up. They're going to deliver turnovers. Might get some sacks from Cam Wake, but they're not going to be able to deliver the victory. I'm predicting a 21-17 Houston Texans victory.
Omar, I'm thinking, Chicago game we went in, everybody predicted Bears are going to beat them.
Yeah, and you were perfect.
I did predict the Dolphins win.
Yes, you did predict, yeah.
Now, Detroit, everybody picked the Dolphins to win.
Yes.
Now we're all predicting the Dolphins are going to lose. And I'm going Houston 27-17. Thursday night games are really unpredictable. And
teams are just trying to make it through.
But you go through what the Dolphins have gotten. They're taking hits to the playmakers on offense, and it wasn't a good offense to begin with. And so, so simple to me. Go with the home team. The hot teams won 4 in a row. Houston.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. We will learn how much fight this dog has. Because I think their backs are against the wall Thursday night, and this could be the game that swings the season one way or the other.
Well, they'll be 4-4, and they play the Jets coming up with a break. So You know what it'll do is it'll reset the season. It will reset. They were 4-2, 3-0, 4-2. They were playing with, you know, a nice winning record. If they go,
they had a little house money.
If they go back to 4-4, we're resetting the season, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much fight this team has left, and hopefully
it's Game 7. How can they not have fight left?
Hey man, I seen them lay down last year at this very point in the season.
All that culture, Omar.
Yeah, culture. You know, and that's the one thing I really fought hard not to buy into, and now I know why. Because once you get punched in the mouth, it exposes your culture, your true culture. So it'll be interesting what happens on Thursday night. Dolphins, Houston Texans. Thursday night, it's going to be on Fox, and it's going to be on NFL Network. I'm Dave. I'm not Dave Hyde.
Wow.
I'm
Omar Kelly.
This is Hall of Famer Dave Hyde.
This is our Halloween show.
This is Omar Kelly. For X's Omar, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday at 1 p.m.